There is a Battlefield clip online trending showing a streamer that goes by RileyCS flicking and snapping on the people that many would automatically call hacks for, which has since then created a lot of cheating accusations and even caused a ban on Twitch that was later reverted. As time went on, social media has become pretty divided on these clips. Some people think she cheated, while others have come to defend her. With how controversial these clips have become, I want to give my thoughts on RileyCS's clips and whether or not she's cheating. Obviously, from the start, it looks like she's just snapping on the people left and right at inhuman levels of speed. While it does look flashy, this is 100% possible for most people. All you really need is a light mouse and a mousepad the size of my and you'll immediately notice that you'll have more room for control and speedy movements. The flicking onto opponents is the really hard part, but not impossible. It just takes lots and lots of hours of aim training and general gaming to get even close to this. RileyCS clearly has a lot of experience when it comes to these aim trainers. Some of you may even mistaken it for some kind of aimbot, but if you zoom in closely, you could actually see her missing at first, then readjusting quickly. Another part that got people calling her a cheater was this clip of her lining up a headshot through the wall. If you look closely, you can see her opponent is already on the minimap with more than enough time to react to it. The flick onto the head through the wall is a bit sus, I will admit that. I think this is more of her understanding how tall the players are in this game and simply predicting where the head would be, and she just happened to land on a rock in between them. You could even see her de-scoping mid-fight because she wasn't sure if her opponent was still alive. This is what I and many like to call crosshair placement. In games like Counter-Strike and Valorant, this is pretty much a necessity as almost everything could kill you with one shot to the head. If you're aiming for the body every single time, your gunfights are going to take longer, giving your opponents more chances to shoot back. You can either simply memorize where the head is and subconsciously aim at that level at all times, or if you're like me, you use the environment to measure where the head usually is from past experiences. The rest of the video is just generic snappy aim that, again, the majority of you can probably do with practice if you really wanted to. Even at the parts where she's beaming someone down through a vehicle, that's not really hard to replicate as it's an object moving at a consistent speed, so all you have to do is trace the object. If you put a gun to my head and maybe make a decision based on these clips, I'd say she's not cheating. These snappy aiming highlights are nothing new to me. In fact, I've been aware of this type of aiming since 2022 when skypads were the new big thing, and researching them made me bump into Viscos? I don't really know how to say your name, but I'll put the clip right here. As you can see, she has very similar styles of aiming, and this was years ago. This isn't something new. So why are so many Battlefield players calling cheats without a second thought? The simple answer is because the Battlefield community is one that is almost completely isolated from the aiming community. And the fact that I can see some of you guys scrolling down to the comments section just to type aiming community in quotes, as that's apparently the new running joke here, pretty much proves my point, as some of you guys either think it's a joke or legitimately had no idea this was a thing until now. This community is mostly dedicated to games like Osu, Kovacs, Aim Labs, and their entire goal, or where the fun comes from, is practicing their aim against moving targets, shooting polka dots, or even simulations of other games, and seeing how far they can push themselves with each attempt. These guys also have extremely lightweight mice with very big mouse pads that allow them to flick and control their mice with ease. Put them into a game like Battlefield where there's no concept of aim training or hardly any concept of things like crosshair placements or map callouts, and they're going to be leagues better than the average Battlefield player to the point where they'll be looked at as a cheater. While I'm nowhere near this good, I can confirm that using a lighter mouse to an extent and a bigger mouse pad does make aiming much easier, as I can both control my mouse and flick onto my opponents when I need to. I'm willing to bet the average Battlefield player is either on consoles with controllers, meaning they can't physically do this even if they wanted to, or they're on PC using a small office mousepad with a heavy mouse like a G502 from like 10 years ago, running at a very high sensitivity or something absurd while using a 60Hz monitor. I'm not saying that's a bad thing or you're a bad player because of it. What I'm saying is that you're not going to see a Battlefield content creator talk about the latest final mouse release or discussions on which which holophonic keyboards give you the least amount of latency, as Battlefield isn't a game where any of that is required. Battlefield has never been a game about climbing the leaderboard or getting good at the mechanics. It's always been about the chaos, storming bases, breaking buildings down, getting on a blimp and raining hell, or pulling off a Rendazook or some other weird shit you wouldn't be able to do in other games. I also think there's a sense of paranoia within PvP gaming as a whole. This might be a really hot take, but I do think Warzone and COD as a whole did irreparable damage to the gaming scene. Not only did it fry casuals' brains with the most basic generic shooter in all of gaming history for nearly 20 years, but it also ruined the genre's reputation for an entire generation, as Warzone lacked a proper anti-cheat at launch, causing cheaters to run wild. It took 3 years to make one, only for it to not do anything, and now everyone calls cheats on anything that isn't the gameplay of an NPC. Even with games like Valorant already proving that you could have a mostly cheat-free experience even at the top percentile level of play in a free game, keep in mind, people still question the integrity of each match simply because Warzone happened and it traumatized that entire group of gamers. But let's take out the cheating issue for a moment here. This is also another case of the base skill ceiling rising with time itself, as there's another discussion as to whether or not people like this should even be allowed to play. The reality is that we don't have much of a choice. Gamers are simply better than they were 10 years ago, and it has never been easier to get good at video games. Not only are we living in an age of instant information at our fingertips, the technology to play these games have gotten significantly better and easier to obtain. I've already talked about the PC side of things, but even for console gamers, you have controllers with TMR sticks, back buttons, and smart triggers that could go for less than $100. Even the consoles themselves have had massive upgrades over the years, as all the new ones can run games at up to 120 FPS. I want to save this part for another video, as it's already planned to be a part of its own dedicated video, but whether you're a complete noob or a top percentile player, neither side is less deserving of playing the game. Unless they're an actual cheater, of course. All this reminds me of the Flusha clips back in 2015 or 2016, as the dude was hitting the most ridiculous sprays through smokes, walls, and places he had no business looking at, and pretty much half the community thought he was cheating to the point where he became known as Senior Vac for it. If Flusha became an aspiring pro and did what he did back then today, his career would have been burned to the ground by the communities in and out of Counter-Strike before it would even begin, based on how people are reacting to these clips. If anything, I just feel bad. We truly are in an age where you're shamed for being too good at a video game, which is the polar opposite of the environment I grew up in. But that's going to be it for today's video. What are your guys' thoughts on RileyCS's clips? Do you think she's cheating? Do you think she's legit? Let me know down in the comments below. I can already see the dislikes coming in. If anything, this is probably going to get more dislikes than likes, but I don't know. I don't care. I'm tired. Why am I even making this video? I hope you enjoyed it either way. Leave a like, subscribe for more content, and I will talk to you all later.